It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions.
Touchdown, San Diego!
Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the DIXILINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to Hacksaw's Headlines, our Monday bonus podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my irreverent co-host from left field, John Riley. We welcome you to all things sports, coming off a great sports weekend. Our podcast brought to you every Monday by DIXILINE Lumber and Home Center stores of San Diego, 9 locations to serve you. You've got projects for 2024. You should talk to them about all the things you need and consult with them about what you're trying to design. And by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido, we will all need help with our eyes somewhere down road. When that time comes, think North County Eye Center, Poway, Escondido. John, there are just not enough hours in the day to watch everything that's on TV. What a great sports weekend we had.
Oh, my God. I mean, all the basketball, the baseball. I mean, it's just a great time of the year.
Absolute ton of topics on the table. We're going to go a lot of different directions on our Monday podcast. Before we hit the floor running, little pieces of business. Item 1, when we're done detailing all the stories, it's your turn to become part of our team. It's called Fans Forum. John, explain how this works for the people joining us on our live stream.
Okay, so you got a comment or question for Lee? Maybe you want to give him some crap about the sweatshirt he's wearing. You know, it's up to you. So if you got a question or comment, drop it in the live chat on Facebook, X, or on YouTube.
And a reminder, if you like sports, check my website. That's the address right there on the top of the screen, leehacksawhamilton.com. I write on it every day. There's a ton of information for you the next morning. And while you're there, there's a big orange box right on the homepage. We invite you to join us, become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You will get emails, all types of information that we're sending in your direction and things we're thinking about rolling out in 2024. Just go to the website, leehacksawhamilton.com. John, where do you want to start? You pick the topics and we're off and running.
Final Four, baby. I'm loving this NC State run. Isn't it great?
Good headline. Who's in? Who's out? Have you ever seen this before? 17 upsets, John, in the first 3 rounds. 2 number 1 seeds have been sent home. North Carolina, which I never thought was truly a number 1, and in Houston got beset by injuries in their last game. They died on the floor. Did you ever think at this level of great teams, great players, John, you'd see UConn run off 30 straight points against Illinois? And then there's Zach Ertey, career best, 40 points in his last game for Purdue. He's fouling every big man out that is in the building. And there's some people that are red hot. I guess North Carolina State is for real. You know, in the ACC playoffs, they won 5 games in 5 nights, which is an astounding accomplishment. And they're in the Final Four, and as is Alabama. And Alabama lost a couple of really good players from last year's Final Four team. They replaced them. Bama is there, too. So we got March Madness, men's play. Quick comment, who's in, who's out?
Well, loving North Carolina State, isn't it? It's like Jim Valvano all over again, 41 years ago. That's terrific. UConn is the beast of the East. I mean, they just rolling. I felt bad after they killed the Aztecs, but then they rolled Illinois, and I'm thinking, well, this is just their year. What are the other 2 teams you said? It was Purdue. Yeah, Zach Edey is unbelievable. He's on a mission right now. If it turns out to be a UConn-Purdue final, that could be special.
Exactly. And aside from the men's bracket, don't go away from the TV this afternoon and tonight. We got the ladies qualifying to try to get to their Final Four. USC, UConn, 1 marquee game. LSU, Iowa, you don't want to miss that rematch. Let's talk first of all about the Lady Tigers, Lady Hawkeyes. Let's talk about Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. Clark averaging 31 points per game. LSU is not quite what they were a year ago because they've lost players along the way, but Reese is Reese, and we know what Caitlin Clark has done. You got bling versus the sportsmanship. You got the taunts versus the big-time shooter. That is must-see TV just to see how Caitlin's going to do and what kind of defense they're going to run at her. and to see how LSU reacts if Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark. The other game, Southern Cal UConn, upstart Trojans. What an amazing season against the iconic Lady Husky basketball program, 11-time NCAA champion. Juju Watkins, one of the best players in the country nobody knows about, averaging 27 per game for the Lady Trojans. And I'll say this about UConn. They lost 5 key players with all types of injuries this year. They got one star standing, Paige Buckers. 27 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, 4 assists a game, 3 steals a game, 2 block shots a game. How's that line? That's pretty impressive. And, of course, they're led by Gino Auriemma, the legendary coach. With all the maladies they had in Storrs, Connecticut, they went 32-5 on the season. Must-see TV tonight, ladies basketball.
Yeah, what was the thing that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, they're putting their hand on the face?
Yeah, see my ring.
And see my ring. And the smack talking is fantastic. It makes women's sports so much more entertaining. And it's just wonderful to see, because in a lot of the other sports, the women are more well-behaved, and that's nice, but I like it when they kind of get, gritty out there on the court.
That's been a tough week for the NCAA, a.k.a. the women's tournament. There's problems lots of places. The refs are being criticized because they're allowing way too much trash talk right now.
Oh, no way.
And some of the basketball people think that should not be allowed. If guys did it on the court, they'd be teeing them up. Why are they not teeing them up for what the women are doing? That's an item. Second item. This story just broke. Portland Regional this past weekend.
Yeah.
Hear about the three-point stripes?
I did.
Unbelievable. For the fans who don't know, when they laid out the court in Portland for that regional, they made a mistake when they put out the line for the three-point women. Three-point women's line is 21 feet 1 inch. It was 21-1 at that end of the court. At this end of the court, somehow, some way, it was 6 inches shorter. And they didn't discover it till the final day. And they went to the coaches and said, we can delay the game. It's going to take us time to reset the three-point line at this end.
Yeah.
Coaches said, it'll be even. Let's just go ahead and play the game.
Yeah, that was the right choice.
6 inches, though. That's a lot.
Apparently there was a vendor involved that makes all these courts. And isn't it interesting, too, how they switch the courts in and out so easily with all the art and all the logos and everything else. But yeah, you figure you're going to play each basket equal number of times. That was the right choice, but they got to have better quality control.
And then there was the incident at the Utah Hotel in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, racial taunts involving the Lady Utes, which has really left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And then today, we find out that at halftime of a game yesterday, they removed a ref. Not for bad calls, but as they did some investigative work on her resume, they found out she did not put into the resume that she did schoolwork at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And she was working a UTC Chattanooga game when she was removed at halftime of the game.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of bizarre. So all kinds of things with women's basketball to talk about. And that being a topic on the table, go to the second topic on the table.
Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the LSU coach.
Her name is Kim Mulkey. Unbelievable talent, tremendous track record, and a trail of controversy that covers decades upon decades. She's been at war with the Washington Post and the LA Times over controversial columns or articles they have written and just released the same day on Saturday involving Kim Mulkey. I'm going to give you some of the hot quotes. The Washington Post. Now, a columnist has a right to present the data and express an opinion about the data that he has uncovered. That's what made my talk shows so great.
That's right.
The Washington Post reporter in his summary, Kim Mulkey, no warmth, no nothing, just grudges. Her wins. She earns $3.2 million a year. She has left wreckage behind at both Louisiana Tech and Baylor. 37-year feud with her father over his infidelity, 37-year feud with her sister over broken relationships. Kim Mulkey refuses to forget grudges ever. Refused to make any statement nor support Brittany Griner when imprisoned in Russia. Brittany played for Mulkey at Baylor. Enraged, the Griner's personal lifestyle displayed her sexuality. Benched Angel Reese, saying what she does on social media is crap. Clashed with her own players at 3 different schools about sexuality imploring her players, lesbians, to hide it.
What the hell?
That's gotten some real reaction. Treats gay players and gay people harshly. Stood up in a team meeting and said, I ain't testing for COVID. And backed Baylor's football program despite 18 sexual assault incidents that led to the purge of the Art Briles coaching staff. That's from the Washington Post. LA Times followed with a different type story the same day. When you play LSU, it's always good versus evil. Her era of coaching should be about being inclusive. Her era is divisive. Kim Mulkey, it's always us against the world. She always enjoys the black hat approach. When you play them, you're playing the dirty debutantes. Quite a weekend for the Washington Post, the LA Times, and of course she is threatening defamation lawsuits against the whole world. So the question is, she says, these are hit jobs. All this is way over the line. You are cheap-shotting female basketball players. Or was it guys reporting how she acts, what she stands for, and what she is all about? And John Riley says,
wow, reaction to that. That's something. I love her. I think she's fantastic. When you see her up and down the court, I mean, she rallies her players and she's always wearing some flamboyant outfit.
Everything with feathers.
Feathers and all kinds of stuff. I love that about her.
Okay, but what about the person and all those factors in both the Post and the LA Times came from players who played for her at Louisiana Tech, at Baylor, and obviously at LSU.
Well, you know, a lot of it is part of the America culture war, I would imagine, is integrated in this somehow. But they always go after the top dog, don't they? I mean, they always want to, when someone reaches the mountaintop, they want to tear them down. And that's what this is. I mean, I see some of this and I'm like, okay, but she's just ultra competitive in everything that she does. Has she hurt anyone, killed anyone, robbed anyone? No. I mean, she just has a very strong will and she's determined to win. And she's incredibly entertaining. And it makes women's basketball like a lot more exciting on the national scene. So I think a lot of this is crap. I mean, I don't really think it's that big of a deal.
So John Riley says the ends justify the means.
No, I don't say that.
It's kind of sounded like you said that.
No. I like her for what she represents.
But what does she represent with
winning?
Homophobic issues.
That's a problem. I agree with you there.
Now you can't put it in back up now.
No. But she's a winner. She goes out there and wins. She motivates her players. She goes scoreboard. The scoreboard looks good. So I appreciate her for all that. Now, yeah, I mean, is she bigoted? Yeah, but I mean, I bet you we can interview a lot of other coaches. We're going to discover they're bigoted. That doesn't make that right. But when you look at the whole package, I think she is a terrific coach and she deserves the accolades she gets. Now, these hit pieces, you know, so what? I mean, these sorts of things come out about other coaches, other players. She needs to make some adjustments. I agree with you there. But overall, I love her. She's one of the reasons I watch LSU basketball.
Can the camera focus closer in on Mr. Riley's face out in left field? Because it's getting red. That was pretty good. All right, so we're going to ask you to join us in Fans Forum right now. Jump in. Your reaction. You ever seen anything like this? Final Four, men's basketball, the upsets, all that. And if you got an opinion on Kim Mulkey, if you want to stand on that side of the street out in left field with John Riley, or stand on the journalist side of the street that says, we're just reporting the facts and expressing opinion on all the junk that she's been involved in at 3 different schools with star players, join us, Fans Forum. We're going to light the damn computer on fire when we're done. Okay. So if you're into basketball, feel free to join us right now. The chat box is going to be open so you can file some comments about the Kim Mulkey controversy. Women's basketball today, men's Final Four coming up next weekend. One more basketball topic on the table, John.
Yeah, I got to talk about the Aztecs. I mean, the season's over, but they have an interesting offseason ahead of them.
Yeah, you know, in retrospect, everybody was so excited. San Diego State, UConn, the rematch became a mismatch. Aztecs just got overwhelmed. Very, very good season. Not a great season because they were so erratic and so streaky. But you win 26 games and you get back to the Sweet 16 accomplishment in what many thought would be a rebuilding year considering how many good kids left the program. But now it's decision time. And they got roster decisions to make. They got scholarship limitations to make. There might be a transfer out. There's NIL issues that are now surfacing that they are trying to solve. Let me run through headlines. Lamont Butler, Reese Waters, Micah Parrish can all leave. They do have one extra year because of the COVID rule if they wish to stay. At this point, I think Butler stays. I think Reese Waters has to come back because his season was so up and down, and he can still play at this level. I'm sure he can. And in terms of Butler, he's accomplished so much and he's about to graduate. Does he go to the NBA and be a second-round draft pick and maybe wind up in the NBA G League, or does he stay here and continue to polish his skills a la Jaden Ledee? I'd love to see all three stay. They do that, though, they're only going to have one scholarship left. It looks like they're going to lose one of their forwards. DeMarshe Johnson's been here 3 years. He practices. Coaches see him every minute, every day. They must not think he can play at the Mountain West Conference level, so he might exit. The other story is a really interesting story. You know, San Diego State has really tried to catch up to the big-time programs in terms of NIL money. And the Mesa Foundation was found a couple of years ago by the Big Cigar Boosters. They raised $325,000 the first year for NIL money, and they gave the kids each $2,000 apiece. This past year, they pushed it out to about $500,000 in donations, which is really exceptional. And some of the players got higher amounts of money than the younger players, etc. And they are now trying to trigger a civic drive to get to $1.2 million because that's what they think they're going to need for 24 and 25. There's also a story out there that 8 super teams are proposing a huge preseason non-conference tournament in Las Vegas with the backing of hotels, corporate, etc., that would guarantee each school $1 million that would have to go into each school's NIL fund. Oh. And there would also be a split share of TV revenue from this big preseason Thanksgiving tournament, I guess you'd call it. And it involves a lot of marquee names. They haven't selected it yet. They haven't determined or announced what the site is, but it would be upper echelon programs, fill the arenas, get big TV money for this event, 3-day event. And all that money would then go into the team's NIL. So it's kind of a novel way to add money. At the end of the day, the thing that really impressed me about the Aztecs, tough loss to UConn, tough to see. Post-game press conference, the players did not talk about their disappointment, did not talk about how poorly they played, did not, with the exception of one odd compliment to UConn, they talked about relationships. They talked about their journey over what they've experienced the last 2 years. They talked about Dutcher the coach, Dutcher the leader, Dutcher the person. And they said, we have made friends with this core for the last 2 years. And we have a relationship going forward, that man, the rest of our lives. That was really cool. That was really different than most NCAA press conferences. Only word I can use to describe San Diego State basketball, classy, from top to bottom. So that's where we are. John Riley's turn to talk about the Aztecs.
Well, this is a successful season. Sweet 16 2 years in a row. You got to love that. Yeah, they ran into a juggernaut, just like the Padres playing the Tigers or the Yankees in the World Series or the Chargers playing the 49ers. They ran into
a buzzsaw.
But it's interesting, the players like that you talked about, like Reese Waters, I think, is going to be back. He says he likes the culture. He feels comfortable. I've heard people saying maybe he's going to be a feature go-to guy next year. That sounds good. Micah, I'm not sure about. He might stay, he might go. I don't know. Lamont Butler is the interesting one because he had a down year. Even after he went and worked out with all the NBA scouts like in May of last year, is he going to make the jump? Or, oh my God, would he switch to another college team like Keyshawn Johnson did and get an NIL payday?
NIL payday probably comes into the equation, but he's got 1 year left. This culture is really important. They come up with more NIL money, maybe they can keep him. He's not going to get $200,000, but, and he stays here and runs this system again and just continues to polish. Maybe he puts himself into the NBA draft to the point he gets a guaranteed contract as a late first rounder, maybe an early second rounder, rather than hoping to go to camp and wind up in the NBA G League in Sioux Falls. So I hope he stays. If he and Reese Waters stay with the young bad boys, the three bigs who come back.
Yeah.
That's a pretty nice foundation. They got a couple of incoming freshmen, and they might have 1 or 2 scholarships to use to go see if they can find somebody in the transfer portal to be a difference maker.
Well, these guys coming in, the transfers, these guys are big-time guys. They're like 7 feet tall. I mean, so this could be pretty interesting how they configure the roster. But I think if I'm Lamont Butler, after what the season that he just had, even as defensive player of the year in the Mountain West, I don't think he gets drafted at all. I mean, if he goes into the draft this year, I mean, we talked earlier about how, Jaden Ledee and Zach Edey don't really rank that high on the mock draft boards because of all the Euros that are coming in and guys from other parts of the world. So I don't see, and Lamont has to have a more shooting consistency from the three. And if he does that, then I think he's got a shot.
Okay, all basketball at the front end. We get to halftime. Our podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and North County Eye Center. John, when it comes to projects at home, whether it's the kitchen, the family room, the bathroom, outside near the pool, windows, doors, you name it, that's a specialty at Dixieline Lumber. I'm pretty impressed with those people.
Yeah, they're really good. And not only that, they cater to both homeowners and to contractors. And I think that's really special because usually a lot of these places are one or the other. They can service both customer bases.
These are the people we do business with. We recommend them to you, Dixieline Lumber. And our podcast also brought to you by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. Lots of people wear glasses. Tons of people wear contacts. If you need vision tests, check them out at North County Eye Center. But we're all going to need help somewhere down the line. Glaucoma, cataracts, cornea problems, eye infections, pink eye. When you have serious eye problems, these are the people you need to talk to. Been in business since the 1970s, serving everybody in the North County. North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. Before we go to the second half of our Monday bonus podcast, couple of business items. When we're done, it's your turn to take over this podcast. We call it Fans Forum. All of John Riley's friends from left field are going to be allowed to jump into the chat box and ask questions, make statements, etc. We have given you a ton of information about March Madness, NCAA women's programs, Kim Mulkey, and Aztec basketball. There's got to be an opinion, a question, a statement you want to make. John, how do they do it to get into Fans Forum?
Oh, my God, you should see the number of people in here. All our Winnipeg friends have rolled in, too, and they're all smack talking, including Kenny's water bottle. So if you got any questions or comments for Lee about all the sports topics we've been discussing, type it in the live chat on Facebook, YouTube, or on X, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
And we want you to subscribe to everything we do, because then you'll get all the notifications when we put stuff up on our YouTube channel, and we do it on a day-by-day basis. And check my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I write on it every day. Subscribe to that, then you'll get the notification when I put that stuff up. It's there every morning. I guarantee you. You won't miss anything if you read what I write on my website. With apologies in advance, it's bleeping brilliant. John, let's go. Second half, okay. Monday bonus podcast.
All right, I guess we're going to talk here a little bit about, Scott Boras and Major League Baseball.
Well, John and I have gone back and forth about the free agents that didn't get signed right till the end. And some of it had to do with the fact that these guys were stars and got qualifying offers, which meant there was draft pick compensation. Some of it had to do with the agent asking for unbelievably long contracts for Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger. Some of it had to do with the average salary, that teams just did not want to be the highest paid player in Major League Baseball, coupled with a long-term contract. Well, Boras kind of melted down over the weekend with the start of the baseball season, and he was questioned, and he defended the deals that he got for Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger, the three big names on the free agent market. He prefaced everything by ripping the 10 teams that cut payroll this year, despite the fact that everybody's making a lot of money in Major League Baseball. And he challenged Tony Clark and the Players Association. You represent these players. You should not be allowing these owners, 10 of them out of the 30, to cut payroll the way they did. And then he opened up about what happened to Snell, Montgomery, and Cody Bellinger, and why the two pitchers were out there still on the open market the week the season was opening. He said teams refused to go to the longer deals they wanted for his top 3 clients because they were not willing to pay a big amount of money and a multi-year deal to a guy who had one good season. He was making reference to Blake Snell, who had the Cy Young Award season with stats that we might never, ever see again, but never got the kind of contract, 7 years, $210 million, that Boras wanted. He said teams were leery of guys. They were holding these guys accountable for what these guys did in 2021 and 2022, and they were not going to reward them just based on 2023. You know, here you had a Cy Young Award winner who wound up, in essence, signing a 1-year contract with an option out with the Giants in Blake Snell. Here you had Jordan Montgomery, reinvented himself as a pitcher, front of the rotation, World Series ring, Texas Rangers. Prior to that, had scuffled. You know, Snell, in all honesty, Snell's ERAs in San Diego prior to the Cy Young season were 3.38, very erratic, and 4.20, really poor. And he looked like he was not the pitcher he used to be in Tampa Bay. Bellinger, prior to arriving at Wrigley Field and hitting over 326 home runs, he batted 196 and 201, and the Dodgers didn't even attempt to re-sign him. So Boras is saying, my guys had great seasons, and you're not willing to reward them because you're holding against them what happened to them prior. Well, if I'm a general manager, I'm not giving, and I like Blake Snell, I'm not giving Blake Snell 7 years, $30+ million to pitch 5 innings a game in his starts.
Yeah.
Common sense says you shouldn't do that. So I guess if Boras didn't get his way, Boras is trying to shape it differently and dumping it on the front porch of every major league owner who signed one of his clients. So it's kind of intriguing. His guys got good 1-year paydays. But at the end of the day, they probably go back on the open market, and will they even get what they got in San Francisco? Snell, Matt Chapman, Chicago, Bellinger, Jordan Montgomery with his signing in Arizona. Will they get big paydays the next time if they don't have super seasons? It's fascinating. Your reaction to, well, first of all, we've argued about Boras' philosophy and the way to do business. Your reaction to Boras crying about this?
Well, Boras is trying to reframe it, right? Because he didn't get the 7-year deals he thought he would.
It's on them.
Yeah, it's someone else's fault. It's not my fault. But, you know, this is just the natural dynamics of a marketplace, right? And the players are going to want to get as much as they want, as much as they can. And the owners are going to want to try to pay as little as they can. And they usually find a way to meet in the middle. And for these players, there were a lot of question marks, you know? And so, you know, it's no different than in our careers. Like if we have one good year, but a bunch of crappy years before that and whatever we do in our profession, you know, the big raise is going to be a little skeptical, you know, as far as what you might get from your employer. So the marketplace, I understand the dynamics and how it worked, but I was surprised that it lingered so long. And I think teams like the Giants and Diamondbacks are just sitting there waiting, you know, holding their cards. And then once the market dipped enough, then they went in and struck. And I think they made good deals.
Well, they made good deals for this year if they got the right guy. But remember, there's draft pick compensation. They lost international signing money. I know you're cheering Giant baseball right now because Snell's about to make a start next week. But if he opts out after 1 year, Farhan Zaidi gave up 2 high draft picks and $1 million in international signing money to rent Snell for 1 season. That plus paying him $31 million per this coming season. That's a huge investment for 1 round of the rotation, no?
Well, there's always big risks in these deals. I mean, imagine if you signed Snell to a 7-year deal.
Not me.
You know, and then the thing blew up and, you know, halfway through year 1. So I don't know. I just think the Giants and all these other teams are trying to demonstrate to their fans that they are committed to winning. And I think that's part of the PR game that's going on here. But, you know, it was the Boras 4, right? It was Snell, Montgomery, JD Martinez, and Bellinger. Yeah, and every one of those guys got a short-term deal.
1-year deal.
Yeah, but, you know, that's the way baseball used to be, like, you know, before free agency. Everyone was just a 1-year contract, right?
Okay, so Boras has had a response. You got an opinion on what would you have given Snell? Fans Forum window is open, jumping on board there. John, let's continue to talk about what's going on downtown and other places in baseball.
Yeah, hopscotching around the MLB.
Padres, home run derby? Are you kidding me? What a weekend. Yeah. Tatis, second deck home run. Manny, second deck home run. The kid, Merrill, bomb. Campusano into the building down the left field line. That was impressive, or was that bad San Francisco pitching? So we got that. Joe Musgrove, mystery right now. Not the same pitcher. Struggling to use the new slider he's tried to develop. It's been a real problem. Please, patience. As long as he's not having any physical setbacks when he's going out and throwing 60 to 70 pitches, give him space to try to solve what's going on with the slider. The hard slider caused all the problems in the shoulder. He's tried to develop a new slider. There's no doubt the guy is dedicated. There's no doubt the guy's got a fire in his gut to do it. Just give him some space. Oh, Dodgers, blue ball. Damn, everybody in that lineup is hitting. And how about Yash Yakamoto? He had, a couple of bad outings in spring. Got lit by the Padres in his one inning in Korea. They give him 8 days off. They work on his mechanics, and he pitches against the Cardinals. Strikeout, batter 1, batter 2, batter 3, clocked at 96.
Wow.
He winds up going 5 innings, no runs allowed.
Nice.
He said overnight the reason he settled down, he worked a little bit on his mechanics, his glove location, pitching out of the set. He took his time on the mound, did not feel rushed, did not lose his confidence, etc. So Yokohama now, one really dazzling start. He did that against Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Pretty good bats in the lineup. So he's got one good start, one bad start. So we'll see if he can continue on this track. Speaking of the Dodgers, Walker Buehler ahead of the schedule coming back. Yesterday, 4 shutout innings, 1 unearned run, rehab start, AAA, clocked at 94. He may be back by May 1st rather than June 1st. So that's the latest there. Angels. I didn't project them to do very well, and they got blitzed the first 2 games in Baltimore. And I've never heard of this. 0-2 out of the gate, gave up 24 runs in the first 2 losses to the first-place Orioles, and they held a team meeting after the second game of the season. Mm-hmm. Anthony Rendon, 0.00 batting average, Blutarski numbers.
That guy.
Mike Trout only hitting 200. So they won 1 game yesterday. They're 1-2. They don't look right. And now they're in Miami to meet the winless Marlins. Bud Black, Colorado Rockies. This was god-awful. I guess my St. Francis of Assisi medal didn't get there yet. That's what I sent him to start the season, the medal for lost causes. 14-run inning. Arizona, 14 runs in the 3rd inning opening day against Bud Black's ace, Kyle Freeland.
Holy crap.
And he left him in there. I think he wound up giving up 10 of the runs before they went out and took him off the mound. Poor Rockies, they just don't have enough pitching. Interesting, in the aftermath of Ohtani, his name is Phil Nevin. We all know him. We all like him. He sure has an opinion about everything.
Yes, he does.
Phil Nevin sounded off, vote of confidence to Shohei Ohtani. Mentally toughest player I have ever been around. Phil Nevin believes everything Ohtani had to say about the gambling incident. Drew Pomeranz signs with the Dodgers. He's going to AAA to start and just build innings. Dodgers, is it a gamble? Nah, because they're paying him the veterans minimum. Is it a gamble? No, because the Dodgers have a track record of helping players recover from forearm and elbow surgeries. There's quite a track record. So it might be, if there's no more setbacks, and Pomeranz didn't have any setbacks in the spring, just didn't pitch real well, but he's been out of baseball for over a year. Pomeranz might be back at Dodger Stadium, but he's starting in AAA in Oklahoma City. And Juan Soto, quote, "This is why I came here to New York." Juan Soto, as of tonight, is batting .529 out of the gate. If he was batting .529 in San Diego, he'd still be in San Diego.
Yeah.
But a pretty impressive game-winning hit, game-winning home run, game-winning throw-out of home plate of an opposing base runner in the 9th inning. So he has roared out of the gate, which is good because you got Giancarlo Stanton, you got Aaron Judge, you got a whole pile of injuries. They just lost DJ LeMahieu with a fractured foot, and of course the Yankees starting pitching is a little bit suspect. So that's my baseball notebook. And John Riley shouting at us from left field says,
well, there's so many teams and people to comment on. I mean, a 14-run inning, how do you fit that like onto the scoreboard? I mean, do they have a place for two digits?
Double digits.
Yeah. That's nuts. I mean, Bud Black, St. Francis of Assisi. Padres look so good, though, didn't they? I mean, it's like on Sunday, but on Friday and Saturday, not so much. I'm not worried about Musgrove either. I think he'll be all right. He's just kind of working up. A lot of these pitchers are only going 4 innings, so it's early. And then who else we talked about? Yeah, Yash Yamamoto. Nice to see him back. Probably just got his head screwed on straight. Probably just a mental thing. You see that a lot with these guys making their debut in MLB. Phil Nevin. I love hearing from Phil Nevin. Is he working anywhere? I don't think
Not
he is.
right now.
I mean, that guy is a coach that needs to be on some team somewhere in some role. Good guy. I've met him a few times out at Poway High because his sons play baseball there. Really good guy. And by the way, his son Tyler just got picked up by the Oakland A's.
Yeah, Baltimore DFA'd him. What a good place to go. You're talking about opportunity. They don't have much on the rosters. He gets a chance to play. That's all he needs.
Yeah, exactly. So that was nice to see. And then Drew Pomeranz, I mean, that guy was like robbing money from Peter Seidler. We had him for a 4-year deal. I think it was $32 million, and he maybe pitched, I don't know, 10 or 12 games, and that was it.
Yeah, multiple forearm injuries. And he was a pretty good pitcher. He started his career with the Rockies. He moved around, went to the Red Sox, obviously with the Padres. It was pretty good before he broke down, but he broke down multiple times. Same situation, flexor tendon in the elbow. Okay, from baseball, final topic on the table before we go to Fans Forum. Go ahead.
The high-speed sports wire. Got a lot of other sports to cover here, Lee.
Yeah, let's talk auto racing. Any Formula One fans out there? I need an explanation why this is happening. Max Verstappen has dominated F1. He's won 18 of the last 19 races in Formula One. He runs for Team Red Bull. Team Red Bull, as great as they've been in terms of championships, is imploding. Very controversial owner, Christian Horner. He's been up for investigation about abuse of employees. Not a very popular guy in the paddock, but yet he's not been disciplined, has not been removed, still owns the team. He's going to lose his driver. Max Verstappen has decided not to sign an extension with Team Red Bull, who owns the sport right now, and that means mega money. He is going to open negotiations with Team Mercedes, which is a shocker because Mercedes now is not what Mercedes used to be 3 years ago, 5 years ago, decades ago. Verstappen, I think, is going to jump to Team Mercedes at the end of the season. And why is he going there? Because the second name on that board, Sir Lewis Hamilton, is exiting. He has signed a future deal to go to Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton had won 8-point championships. I think he's won 99 career races. He dominated the sport up until 2 years ago. Like Verstappen and Red Bull are dominating the sport right now. They can't get it dialed in. Mercedes has lost its way. It's absolutely stunning how uncompetitive they are. They can't figure out anything as it relates to car setup, tires, horsepower, downforce. I mean, he's running 9th and 10th on the grid starting races, and I think he's got a third-place finish this year, a second-place finish last year, and nothing the year before. And this is a guy who won 99 races. So Sir Lewis Hamilton is going to Ferrari and Verstappen, evidently. And it's a shocker that he would leave Red Bull because Mercedes can't figure it out, even to put Max Verstappen in the cockpit of that car. Does that mean it's going to go fast, it's going to handle and not brake? No, because Mercedes has not shown the ability to get it done. One other note, USA Soccer. They just win the Nations League as they're setting the parameters now going towards the next World Cup in 2026. They won the Nations Leagues with two guys that weren't there contributing last time they played. Tyler Adams and Gio Reyna have become suddenly go-to guys out on the edge. They both scored goals as they embarrassed Mexico. So you got those two. You got veterans on the back end. You got good goaltending, and you got Christian Pulisic, who's now playing very well in Italy. I just think Greg Berhalter's got himself a pretty good cross-section of some veteran players, stars right there right now in Pulisic, and kids on the come fast. I think Team USA Soccer is ready to jump back onto the true national stage. I was really impressed with what they did on short practice notice to put this team together and what they did in the Nations League. So, John, no speeding tickets, but give me some opinions on F1.
So, did the feud end between Berhalter and Reina? Is that
yes? They settled it after Greg was brought back.
Okay.
They settled it, and the family settled it. It's still nasty. It's probably still out there, but they talked about it, and everybody admitted everybody was wrong for how they handled it, most notably the Reina family. Mm-hmm. And it's been green light go, and the kids played well. And, of course, the kid's got to get healthy. Kid finally did get healthy. There's no doubt that he's got great skill. He's obviously got personality, obviously got some ego, but that is the coach, and the coach has the right to tell the player what he wants him to do. But they have solved that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I was a little worried about it. The other comment I want to make is that Lewis Hamilton, I mean, Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Crowned by the Queen.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he's like a knight, right? Isn't that what a sir is? So have there been any other sports athletes that have ever been given knighthood?
Wow. There's somewhere in the back of my mind, there's something else out there. Might have been tennis. But yeah, I think there might be a few, but maybe tennis, not. I don't think soccer, although obviously England back in the day had a phenomenal soccer program, but that's kind of an interesting story. I mean, you cover all that periphery stuff, and I cover the fact that they don't have a downforce package that works. That's what makes this work. You cover what I don't want to cover, and you can present all that data too.
There you go.
All right, listen, one other note here before we get to Fans Forum. I have an explanation here to pass on. We were at work today preparing for a Monday Bonus podcast, and this bulletin came up about this massive NFL trade that the Minnesota Vikings had shipped Justin Jefferson to the Pittsburgh Steelers for 1 and 3. And he saw it. He sent it to me. I said, wow, but that makes sense because Minnesota's struggling with the price tag on Jefferson's final year of his contract. And Jefferson's walking around dropping hints. I want 24 to 25 million on this new deal that kicks in next fall. And there were rumors that he was being shopped. And Pittsburgh's got a new leader, and it's general manager Omar Khan, and he's been very aggressive in player personnel acquisitions and getting the two quarterbacks in the front door. And I thought to John, I said, I guess that's possible because maybe they're going all in and they're going to spend big money. Historically, Steelers have never done that. And then 5 minutes later, we find out, somebody stole Adam Schefter's account, made up this thing as if he put it out. It was the same set of graphics. There was no Justin Jefferson trade, and I'll explain in a second. The second thing, before any of the fashion critics jump into Fans Forum and want to discuss what the hell is he wearing, has he jumped ship? Has he gone to the other side, gone across the street, gone to L.A.? What is he wearing? Just like the Justin Jefferson story, April Fools!
There you go.
I had to wear this. I just had to wear this on this day because it is April Fool's Day. For all of you who are gnashing teeth and pointing fingers, I can wear anything I want on this podcast, and I definitely will. But I just thought, because this was given to me as a gift, today would be the right day to don it, a.k.a. April Fools.
April Fools. You know, when I saw that Justin Jefferson deal, I thought, oh, my God, this is crazy. And it seemed plausible.
Sure.
And then I shared it with you, and then I saw, like, other posts, and it was clear April Fool's BS. Like, the Padres are sending Jackson Merrill down to AAA and just to bait you, to get in there and comment. You just be aware when you're commenting on social media today, especially. But weren't you a Dodger fan growing up as a kid out on
game I ever went to see was Brooklyn Dodgers, St. Louis Cardinals. My dad took me to Ebbets Field. I fell in love. For those who don't know, I grew up on Long Island. Mm-hmm. That was the era of the Yankees, who I hated, the Giants, who I didn't like, and the Brooklyn Dodgers. So I watched everything on TV. I was the only kid on Long Island, John, that was not a Yankees fan. I grew up as an Indians fan, Chief Wahoo.
Really?
Yeah. I was the only kid that didn't like Madeline Maris and Whitey Ford.
You're such a contrarian.
Yeah, right. Well, that's coming from you. I guess that's a compliment. But I went to Ebbets Field. I still have the pictures that I took. I think I was 10 years old in 1957 when my dad took me to see the old Brooklyn Dodgers. Okay, it's time for Fans Forum. You got questions, we got answers. You got statements to make, we just might return serve. You might not necessarily agree with everything that we're going to say, but man, there's a ton of topics on the table. So, John, let's buzz through as many as we can. Fans Forum belongs to you out in left field.
In left field. All right. So, hey, let's go here to Angel. It says, Mulkey is Bobby Knight in high heels.
Bingo. So here's the question. And John and I argued about this on the first half this afternoon. You know, do the ends justify the means? If it's all about wins, it doesn't matter if you stomp on players, if you run players off, treat people badly, if you're condescending about sexual preferences of women basketball players. She seems to be all of that. But according to my best friend, the ends justify the means.
Well, no, that's not what I meant. I mean,
it came out of your mouth that way.
No. You have to look at the whole package, right? The whole package. And overall, I think she's a positive for the sport. But, you know, it's one thing for her to, be telling her players don't show off your sexuality, which is, obviously BS. But she shows off herself, when she's on the sidelines with feathers and all this other stuff in her outfits, which, by the way, I really like. I like all of that kind of, like kind of peacocking up and down the court. It's just entertaining, to see coaches like that. I mean, again, I think a lot of this goes back to culture, and the different cultures in America and how they see the world differently. That's part of it. But, geez, I mean, LSU basketball is the real deal, and it's going to be a great game tonight.
Oh, I can't believe it. But at the end of the day, it was not a smear campaign by the Washington Post. I don't even think it was a cheap shot from the LA Times columnist. They just reported all the junk that she's been through and how she wrecked a couple of programs and treated people a certain way to get where she is. Bobby Knight in high heels? Yeah, probably so. Next question.
Okay, we got another comment about Mulkey. This is from Gregory, and he says, I love Kim, what she does on the court. She's a winner. She's winning tonight.
That's okay. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Greg, Liverpool, you might be wrong. Would you send your daughter to play for her? That's a big question. I'll be interested to see what kind of national fallout there is, because at the post-game press conference tonight, win or lose versus Caitlin Clark in Iowa, and I think it's a must-see TV game, there will be questions to her about what just happened this weekend. Go ahead.
We want more Mulkey comments. People are piling in here. Kenny's water bottle. This stuff doesn't come out by accident. People had strong feelings that they felt needed to be made public. There is something to be said about a coach with character. It's not just about winning.
Well, then what kind of character is it when she mandates to her players? And let's be honest, lesbians are everywhere in college basketball, and that's the accepted norm. That's a way of life. What kind of coach tells her star players, a.k.a. gay, hide it, don't flaunt it, don't talk about it? Why? It's accepted. Why are you telling your star, don't talk about it on social media?
Well, in social media, a lot of these athletes are just superstars.
Yeah.
And it's not just women's basketball, but it's everything, and a lot of other sports. Again, it's incredible how this sport has exploded on the scene.
Oh, the last 5 years.
Yeah, and it's not just Caitlin Clark, or Angel Reese. I mean,
it is Kim Mulkey, and it is the coach at South Carolina who used to be at USC, Dawn Staley. I mean, the phenomenal number of athletes and now the money that's being poured in, and they have now taken control of a piece of the market, and that's spectacular for women's athletics, and it's an offshoot of Title IX.
Well, I heard that tickets at tonight's game are being sold for a higher price than Final Four tickets for the men, because of LSU Iowa. So
there's a market for women's basketball. It's great in quality.
Have you seen the big girl that plays for South Carolina? I mean, she's terrific. I mean, she's like 6'8", and by the way, I love how the women like to. I mean, they wear lots of makeup on the court and everything to have the feminine side of it. And I think it's wonderful. I mean, it's very self-expressive, and I think the game is terrific, and all the different hairstyles and stuff. It's not as, I don't know,
structured.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing. I love seeing this.
Okay, move on. Here we go.
All right. This is from Angel. The coolest man in San Diego with an Edmonton Oilers sweater
is I
think he's talking about that North County Blinds ad.
Yeah.
North County Ice Center ad.
That's right, yes. As I told John way back, I don't own a suit. Everything in my closet probably has somebody's logo on it. That's okay. But I just had to wear this today for April 1st because he almost had a heart attack when I came to the front door of the studio and I was wearing this. And whoa.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how much shit you get online because people are always trying to figure out who are you a fan of? Oh, you're a Dodger lover. You're a Dodger hater. And then you come rolling in with this sweatshirt, and now people are really confused.
Fashion critics, feel free to jump in here and debate us. Go ahead, John.
Okay, let's go to Richard here. This is a Fans Forum comment. The ESPN broadcast on Sunday night is unwatchable. The broadcasters run their mouths nonstop. The in-game interviews are out of control.
It's early in the season, but I maintain there should be a structure, a much better structure. Broadcast the game. If you're going to do dugout stuff, make sure it's with the right person. I don't like the live wire in right field with the player who's trying to get set up defensively and are asking them mundane, inane questions. I don't like that. You can have some fun along the way, but the game should be front and center. And the stories, there's so many storylines in baseball you can talk about. Don't be talking about having breakfast at a pancake shop and the guy orders 26 flapjacks. I'm sorry. You're just taking this thing way off track. Now, old school, yeah. Experienced, yeah. But there's a time and place for fun stuff, but not in the center of the broadcast.
Well, did you see the comments a couple of days ago that Kike Hernandez was the one being interviewed? Mm-hmm. And he's playing, I think, in the infield somewhere. And the PitchCom audio that he is receiving is coming through and leaking into the microphone on the ESPN broadcast. So you have the players being interviewed, distracted, trying to play their position, and then the thing is chirping in his ear saying, slider, and so then he's making his adjustment on the field. And when they first started bringing this out, I liked it at first, but it became clear that it was a distraction to the player to do their job. And then I went, they're probably going too far. But if you've got to do anybody, you got to do an outfielder if it has to be live. But I agree with you. I think in the dugout's the best spot.
Okay, we move on.
Moving on. Okay, here, let's go to Derek. For Hacksaw, who's going to win the Jets-Kings game tonight? And will it be the Jets of Kyle O'Connor doesn't get put on the first line?
Well, the Jets hit a little bit of a lull about a week and a half ago, and the Kings have lost 2 in a row. Kings are playing better. I had totally forgotten. I looked at the standings, the divisional standings. The Kings are in the last wild card spot right now, which is kind of amazing considering they've had a good season. But the Kings right now got issues in goal, and that's a big problem. They do score goals. Not every line is scoring, but they've been, they do have the ability and firepower to make some things happen. Winnipeg has had a really good season, but I don't know if they've topped out or maybe they're exhausted right now. I would have to think, it's kind of desperation time with 10 games left in the season. I got to believe the Jets are going to hand the Kings their third loss, and the Kings are going to be limping home, but then they're going to get a pile of games here at home.
The Kings have just dropped so suddenly throughout the season.
They've been very erratic. They had a stretch of time early where they roared out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then they played really poorly, and everybody stopped scoring, but they've gotten it back in goal. But at the end of the day, playoffs, crunch time, you need goaltending, and I don't know that they've got enough goaltending to make this work.
Playoffs. Let me ask you an odd question here. When you hear the team name Kings, do you think of the hockey team or the NBA team?
Oh, no, LA Kings.
Yeah.
Because up until 24 months ago, the Sacramento Kings had such a shoddy reputation as an NBA operation. Mm-hmm. Now, they've gotten better with a really good coach, the ex-Laker coach Mike Brown, and they've drafted very well, and they've kind of kept their players, but they're a disaster all along. Now, the Kings are the Miracle on Manchester, and the Kings are Gretzky, and the Kings are Rogie Vachon and Marcel Dion, and the Kings are this collective group that, even won a Stanley Cup or two.
All right, let's move on here. We got some more people here. I'm trying to get everybody in. I try not to get the same guy in twice. Let's go to Craig. He says, Soto, excellent. Judged silent so far. Decent pitching by the Yankees, which is a key. Baltimore is scary.
Well, I picked Baltimore to win the division again, and they're a very different team. Baltimore's got good bats. You look at the lineup, those are all homegrown products. And then Baltimore had a lot of young pitching. Some of it was good. One of them got hurt. Then another got hurt. Now, they hope to have John Means back maybe within a month. And he's missed a year and a half. And he was the ace of the staff through a no-hitter before he went down with elbow surgery. But getting Corbin Burns from Milwaukee and then adding Craig Kimbrell, that makes a world of difference in terms of veteran leadership. surrounded by a lot of really good young people. Mike Elias came from the Houston Astros. You know, they went 45-17 a couple of years ago, and Elias went in there, and they drafted. Virtually all those kids, led by Adley Rutschman, they're up there. And they got one more really good kid that surprisingly they sent down to AAA, and he's going to be back up here before long. So Baltimore's a team to beat. Soto out of the gate. I wish Soto had done that in San Diego when he's being paid volumes of money. And we'll see if he can continue to do it. Yankees could be good, but the big issue with the Yankees is pitching. No Garrett Cole. I don't know if I can trust Carlos Rondon because he's had so many physical problems since he left the White Sox. Cortez, the third starter, pretty good pitcher when healthy, but he had arm problems last year. The Yankees, to me, are really wafer thin in the pitching department. Now, maybe Clark Schmidt, who I thought the Padres should have gotten, maybe Clark Schmidt is going to make this next jump and is going to become a big foundation member to the Yankee rotation.
Do you see how Soto got that hit off of Josh Hader?
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of weird for Padre fans. But do you get the sense that Soto is playing harder? I mean, he's pushing himself more now that he's in New York.
He's better because he is in New York.
But maybe that's where he wants to land eventually with the Yankees or the Mets, because that's when he's going to get the most money.
Well, you know, this is a guy who, the back end of last season, hitting the 290s with power. Before that, he was hitting 226.
Yeah, exactly.
And the year he came here, that half season after the Washington Nationals trade, he hit about 230. It was terrible.
It was awful.
And
yeah.
He's playing left field like there were landmines out there.
But do you think he went through the motions on purpose? I mean, do you think there's any sort of, conspiracy here?
He's making an awful lot of money. I don't know why you would do that, because you kind of damage your reputation.
Yeah.
Although you're represented by Boras, and then Boras will sales pitch you that, hey, it was a bad fit in San Diego. He's flying right now out of the gate. Let's just see if this continues.
Okay, we got a couple more comments here from athletes that have been knighted in England. And Derek says,
yes.
Sir Jackie Stewart.
F1, correct, very good.
Yeah, and then here's another one from Callan. He says, Sir Alex Ferguson, who managed in soccer.
Yeah, Manchester United, legendary.
Yeah.
Good call.
That is good call.
Yeah, those of you who came from Sussex, congratulations.
And then, I think someone said cricket, but Derek says here, Sir David Beckham.
That's right.
You know? Him and Posh, right?
It's their sport.
Yeah, it is. Okay, here's another person saying Sir Alex. So love seeing the real-time comments coming in. And let's go here to Callan. He said, Lee, the Rangers or the Islanders? I know you grew up a Leafs fan.
Rangers are hot. They've had a really good season. They're not getting the kind of recognition. They just have an 11-game win streak. Islanders have kind of struggled. And I don't know whether it's leadership or changes. I don't know that it's just been complete and right with the Islanders. But the Rangers have got a core that's been together, and they just continue to build it through the draft. Now, the goaltending has had injury problems. Sometimes it's a little bit shaky. But the playoffs are going to be phenomenal. You know, and the shocking surprise team in the league to me is Vancouver. Vancouver's got, I think, 46 wins, and they are right at the top, fighting for home ice advantage for the entire playoffs. And you got, obviously, the Rangers and the Boston Bruins. Tampa Bay is what Tampa Bay has always been, pretty doggone tough. And then you got the Edmonton Oilers, who has all that firepower and all those great players, has yet to get to a Stanley Cup final with Connor McDavid, but they got a lot of depth talent. And then you got Austin Matthews, who's got 60 goals, surrounded by other goal scorers in Toronto. And the Maple Leafs have not won the Stanley Cup since 1967, the original six. Think about that. My gut feel, though, Toronto does not have goaltending that is Stanley Cup winning caliber, and that's going to be a big issue there. Edmonton's goaltending has taken a massive jump from last year's disappointment with Skinner to this year, Skinner getting a call to play all the important games. And Vancouver, if they get the San Diego goalie back, Thatcher Demko, and they think they will, Vancouver's just a tough matchup because they just lean on you and they beat you, and they got some different guys who can score. There's no 60-goal scorer in Vancouver, but this might be the best team they've had since the Canucks, I think, went to the Stanley Cup Finals in '95 against the Rangers. So we start the Stanley Cup in a couple of weeks. It'll be fun.
It's going to be great. I remember Jim Rome always commenting about how hockey playoffs are like some of the best hockey you'll ever see. But I want to go back to your childhood when you were out on Long Island. Why did you pick the Maple Leafs, and did the Islanders exist as a franchise when you were a kid?
Not when I was young, but the Islanders came and they got great. And I remember the time when they formed the franchise and they had the number 1 pick. And I believe it became Dennis Potvin, a great Hall of Fame defenseman. And they got a great goaltender in Billy Smith, and then the Trottier and Gillies and the original number of Islanders. But I knew about the Rangers. I didn't pay much attention to them. Knew about the Bruins. I got to see Hockey Night in Canada, and I just got fascinated because they always had Toronto, Montreal every Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada. Mm-hmm. And I just became a Maple Leaf fan and became friends with one of their players for a long lifetime friendship. So I just grew there. And when I was broadcasting hockey, that's where I started. People don't know I did 8 years of hockey before I went to the Pac-12 and did Arizona State football and the Sun Devils, and then came here to be the voice of the Chargers. I started in hockey, and my goal was to be in the NHL, and I got 8 years in, and then the NHL WHA merged, and Cleveland got left out. We all lost our job, and I was fortunate to find something unique and different that led me out here. Otherwise, I'd be in old Canada.
Well, I like the story you've told about how you were broadcasting in the Maple Leafs arena.
Gondola.
Yeah, and you were up in the gondola. What was that like?
It was phenomenal. The old Maple Leaf Gardens goes back to the turn of the century, early 1900s. And there's been so many stories written about Maple Leafs hockey and how dominant they were in the 60s and the 50s, and how important it was to the province of Ontario and all of Canada at that point. Because at one point there was only Montreal and Toronto in the original 6 in the NHL. And so when I was in World Hockey Association, we played in Toronto, the Toronto Toros, and they played at Maple Leaf Gardens. And Maple Leaf Gardens is a huge old building, and you walk through the hallways where the fans were, and the walls are aligned with all these legendary pictures. It's like a Hall of Fame. It's phenomenal.
Awesome.
And if you go in the Maple Leaf dressing room, all the walls are lined with all their Hall of Fame players and great games, action photos. It's just phenomenal. So I go upstairs, and where's the press box? Well, the gondola's down there. So you walk across a catwalk, and you go down into the gondola, and you are looking right down on the ice.
You're like literally above it?
Yeah. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was so excited. It was just,
well, do they still do that now?
No, they moved to the Air Canada Centre.
Okay.
So it's a very different arena. It's a beautiful arena. I've not been in that arena. But when you're up high at the old Maple Leaf Gardens or the old Montreal Forum where I went with the Canadians, and those were the ones that owned the NHL, all their banners from the 1920s align the roof. It's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
You don't need to take a picture. You just picture a lifetime.
That's like when you went into the Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium and you were telling me about the photos there.
Yeah, just such a cool place.
That's awesome.
I'm big on history. Let's do a couple more here.
Yeah, let's get some social media guys in here, and let's talk Chargers. And this is from Bug, and he says, this talking about Keenan Allen trade. Couldn't believe the Keenan Allen trade when it first came out after hearing he turned down a pay cut and said no to an extension to stay a Charger for life. Good riddance. He clearly cares more about money than winning, and it shows with the decisions he's made. He also missed the back half of the season, so it's not like he was fully healthy. Wish him luck, but it was a terrible move to not take the cut on his part.
When Bosa took the cut and Khalil Mack took the pay cut, in between them they took an $11 million cut, which is significant money. They asked Keenan to give up the $4 million roster bonus and that he'd still make a chunk of his contract. They offered him an extension to try to create some more incentive clauses for 25 and 26 that would have allowed him to make more money. He turned it down. And he turned it down to go to Chicago. Chicago has no history of quarterbacks who throw the ball. It's bleeping cold and windy and snowy starting November 1st. That's why they run the ball and play defense, monsters of the Midway. You know, if he'd gone somewhere else, nice weather, you could say, okay, well, he's going to go and continue to play well. But in Chicago, it's tough. So I was disappointed. I like him, self-made guy, came back from a significant knee injury at Cal. He had real serious injuries early in his career with the Chargers, including a really bad spleen injury. Self-made quality player. Just wish he had stayed here, because setting all types of records and doing it with one specific team, that's kind of cool. And could have stayed here with Justin Herbert, and now all their skill guys are gone. I mean, so as excited as they are, today, by the way, is the first day of OTA workouts for the new coaching staffs in the league and the Chargers with Harbaugh's the first day. in OTAs, weightlifting and running and classroom sessions. They do that for 3 weeks. But they got to fill all these holes. They got holes everywhere on their offense around the quarterback, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, the whole skill guys are gone. But, if we talked about this before, about would you take a pay cut? And you said it depends who I'm working for in the situation. But that's the Spanos family, that robbed San Diego of a franchise, have screwed up the Chargers for decades. And now I'm Keenan Allen. Now they want me to take a pay cut? Screw that. I am all for him getting what he deserves because he's had a great career. Yes. And he shouldn't have to take a pay cut. If anyone should have to take a pay cut, it's like all those defensive guys that, just didn't perform.
But they did.
Yeah, well, they did. Yeah, they got rid of him.
They did. No, they did to keep the team together. Bosa and Mack.
Well, yeah,
they gave $11 million back.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you're changing your mind.
Well,
on
yeah,
me
but
again.
I'm thinking about all the other guys like the other linebackers.
Well, the J.C. Jacksons of the world.
Yeah,
everybody makes mistakes on player personnel, but the Chargers made a horrific salary cap mistake on J.C. Jackson. He wound up getting $31 million. Having played 9 games, and they couldn't get him out of here. And they sent him back to New England with Belichick. Belichick benched him. New England just released him, so he's out of the NFL. But it's a unique set of circumstances. You're making a lot of money. I think Keenan Allen's number this year might be $18 million. And he went to them and said, I want $24 million next year. And they said, no, we can't pay $24 million. We got all these cap problems. So I'm not going to condemn the guy. I just wish you have the unique chance your whole life wearing the lightning bolt. That's kind of cool history to carry with you into retirement. So he goes to Chicago, and we'll watch playing with a rookie quarterback where they can throw the football in the wind and the snow and all that.
Watch him have just like a killer year, and the Charger fans are going to be angry again. Okay, let's talk Dodger baseball. This is from Smells Like Javis. He goes, best team money can buy, yet they have the most homegrown players on the roster than any active team. Just off the top of my head, Kershaw, May, Miller, Buehler, Grove, Gonsolin, Sheehan, Stone, Outman, Lux, Smith.
They've done a good job, really good farm system, and 2 years ago they cut, I want to say, 11 players, and they did it intentionally to get below the luxury tax because they had spent so much money, and then they rented guys who really actually had some pretty good seasons. I mean, J.D. Martinez, bounce-back season, David Peralta, pretty steady, and they did that because they stayed competitive until they had the pitching injuries, but they knew they had 5 young arms coming, and they have a history. They have a history of developing really good pitchers. You go back to Eric Gagne.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look back.
Well, he was on steroids.
Well, true. A lot of people are on steroids in that era. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they have developed a lot of really good young pitchers, and they got more in the pipeline. Speaking of unique situations, there is no storyline attached at all to Julio Urias, whether he's ever going to come back to baseball.
Yeah,
and that was a Cy Young guy 2 years ago. It was 20-4, I think. Mm-hmm. He's out of baseball. Nobody's talking about him at all. And I don't know that he's been taken off the commissioner's exempt list yet, but he's never been charged with anything. Wow. That's really weird.
It is weird. I mean, because he was so talented. But again, I think this is the marketplace dynamics, right? These teams, they know if they sign him, it could be pretty risky for a season ticket base. But I thought it was amazing what Smells Like Java said. That's a long list of really quality homegrown talent.
And you go farther back. You go back and just Google Dodger rosters from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Unbelievable ability to develop arms and pitchers.
Oh, yeah. And they find him, too, like Fernando Valenzuela.
Yeah, and Ryan Pepio, who they traded.
And they traded him, but I'm going back to Bob Welch and Don Sutton.
And Steve Howe, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the Dodger way.
Tommy John. Okay, here, let's talk some NFL draft. This is from Mr. Snoopy. Says, what are you talking about? Jaden Daniels is going to go second to Washington, and then the Raiders are not going to trade up.
Well, there's a lot of jockeying going on right now, and we're going to talk a lot of NFL football the end of this week on the Thursday podcast and into next week as we start to zero in on the draft. Let's be very honest, though. There's a lot of clubs at the top of the board. Chicago is definitely taking Caleb Williams, and then you go from Washington, which has now met twice with Drake May, North Carolina, and then you got New England at 3, and Robert Kraft has said you will draft a quarterback. So you got 3 there. Arizona's going to trade out of 4 to somebody that wants a quarterback. Then somebody's going to jump in and probably take J.J. McCarthy from Michigan.
At 4?
That's what I hear.
That's amazing.
And you got the Chargers at 5, who would then have their pick of any receiver they want, or would they trade out, drop down some, let somebody else jump in at number 5 and take another one of the quarterbacks? I was told Michael Penix's pro day at Washington, he lit it up and he ran a 4.540, which nobody had really thought was possible. The one unique name that I'm not hearing from anybody is Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And I'm really kind of surprised at that, because he's a systems guy, but he's a smart dude, and he's 25 with a world of experience. So I was told by an NFL guy over the weekend we could have 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 8 players.
Amazing.
So we'll talk more about the draft as we go forward.
What do you think about Marvin Harrison? Do you think the Chargers would take him?
Big question. But if they have said and then said a third time, we're going to run the football, I think they take one of those tackles.
Yeah.
And if they can trade out, because that's what Joe Ortiz did in Baltimore, trade from 5 back to 7, or trade from 5 back to 10. Because, see, Minnesota, Denver, and the Raiders are all in that 10, 11, 12 window. Mm-hmm. One of them wants to jump in and try to get access maybe to Daniels. I don't know how high they're going to have to go. Daniel statistically is a phenomenal talent, over 12,000 total yards in his career at Arizona State and LSU. But is he a systems guy where they ran a lot of RPO for him? Is he a big time thrower like Drake May is at 6'5" with a gun for an arm that stands in the pocket? Each quarterback has got a different set of gifts. It's going to be fascinating to see what transpires. One more question here.
Okay, let's talk about the Padres. And this is from Mango Likes Big Butts. And he says, hey, let's be honest. Soto's bat was never really red hot during his tenure in San Diego. The hole will get filled as we go on. But Jake is option number 1 to me. He needs a bounce back year. Oh,
Cronenworth has to have a bounce back year because he's had 2 lousy seasons. And he's got a 7-year contract now that's kind of around his neck. We'll see. Jake has kind of come out of the gate swinging. If he starts to drive the ball, and that's what this new hitting coach, Victor Rodriguez, has said, we want to play gap-to-gap baseball because that's where the hits are at Petco Park, not just home runs. If Jake can revert back to where he was spraying that sucker everywhere and occasionally popping one, then that's really good. But, if you're going to make Jake an outfielder, please tell me who's playing first base, because I don't know right now. They still got holes in left. They've got a question mark with the rookie in center. We'll just have to see. It's so early in the season. And, once we get done playing the Cardinals and Giants, who both got pitching problems, then the schedule is going to change a little bit because they got the Dodgers coming up. So we got plenty of time, a lot of time to talk baseball. I don't think it's a complete roster yet.
He does need a big bounce back season, and wouldn't he be perfect in the number 3 spot? We talked about that before. I think he could be a key. I think he's right. But don't you love the bottom of the order for the Padres being really productive? Campusano, Merrill, Pauly. I mean, that's pretty sweet.
Well, those Padre bats are bad San Francisco arms.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That one Harrison kid.
Of course it's a fair point.
Yeah,
I said it.
Yeah, you said it. Yeah, that Harrison pitcher for the Giants is pretty good. He was one of their up-and-coming guys.
He's really rock.
Yeah, but they lit up Jeffries, who I think had a rocky pass anyways.
He got hurt. He was pitching with a hip injury. He's probably going back on the DL by now.
Yeah.
And so I think San Francisco's wafer thin once you get beyond their top 2.5 starting pitchers. I just don't like the makeup of the Giant roster right now. But they beat the Padres 2, which I don't think anybody really expected to happen. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our podcast, our Monday bonus podcast, brought to you by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. We will all need help with our eyes somewhere down road. Think about that name, North County Eye Center. And by Dixieline Lumber and Home Center stores, 9 locations to serve you. You got projects. These are the people you should consult with. Hope you've enjoyed the topics on the table. You enjoy Women's March Madness Basketball Monday. We'll be back here Thursday to set the stage for the Final Four.
So who you like tonight, LSU or Iowa?
I'm not a Kim Mulkey fan of the person. Okay. I understand the coach, but ends don't justify the means. I'm rooting for Caitlin Clark and Iowa, but I think they got better athletes at LSU, so that's going to be fun. And USC, UConn, how UConn has gotten there with 5 injured players and still won 32 games. And Juju Watkins has had a great year for the Lady Trojans. That's a pick 'em game, but they got that coach on that sideline at UConn, and he's unbelievable, and I think they'll find a way to win that game.
I'm with Kim Mulkey on this for sure. And by the way, the timing of that, these hit pieces, isn't it kind of suspicious, do you think?
Everything's suspicious, but you're a conspiracy dude. I understand that. From left field, you have lots of time to think about conspiracies with your opinions.
Yes, I do.
Hey, listen, we hope you've enjoyed it. And by the way, this, April Fools, have yourself a great day. We'll see you come Thursday on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.